Hey everyone, Mrs. Spatola here. If you haven't noticed already, we're in our second workbook of the school year. So make sure before you do anything, you get book number 2 and you switch and get ready to roll because today we're going to be starting Unit 5 in Book 2. If you open up your workbook to page 161, you'll notice there is a keywords for word problem page. This page is designed to help you if you have to translate any type of word problems or if you just need some basic help with word problems or keywords during the course of the units. Okay, let's turn the page. On the next page is an overview of Unit 5, Operations with Fractions. In this unit, we're going to be focusing on fraction problems and operations related to fractions. So for lesson number 1, you notice we're going to be doing the least common multiple. Lesson 2, we're going to convert mixed numbers to improper fractions and back. Lesson 3, we're going to estimate sums and differences with mixed numbers and fractions. Lessons 4 and 5, we're going to be adding and subtracting fractions with like and unlike denominators and mixed numbers. We will be checking with our calculator. In this unit, we will not be using our calculator as much as possible. We will not be using, most likely we will not be using our calculator for the test, but we can talk about that in class. You might be able to check your work using the calculator, but not to actually do the problems, so we'll talk about that. Lesson 6 is going to be subtracting mixed numbers with regrouping or borrowing. Lessons 7 and 8 will be multiplying fractions and mixed numbers, dividing fractions and whole numbers, dividing fractions and mixed numbers. Lessons 10 and 11, we're going to be multiplying and dividing fractions and mixed numbers, and we'll be doing some problem solving and application with all 4 operations. And then before you know it, it's a review and then time to move on with our next test. Our test will most likely be, of course, after the holidays. That is a review of unit number 5. So let's take a look at today's lesson, which is unit 5, lesson 1, least common multiple. Unit 5, lesson 1, least common multiple. Today we're going to focus on how we can find the least common multiple of 2 or more numbers. Before we start though, we have a do now, and the question is, what is a multiple? Take a minute, think about that, pause the video, and see if you can come up with a thought or two and just jot it down. When we think of a multiple, we think of a number that is divisible by another number without a remainder. So, in other terms, we can call it skip counting. For example, multiples of 5 would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Multiples of 3, 3, 6, 9, 12. Multiples of 10, 10, 20, 30, and so on. Those are all called multiples. So when we look at the least common multiple, basically in our info box over on the right, we can see that the least common multiple of 2 numbers is when we make a list of both of the numbers and we find the smallest number that both of them have in common. Now, this is different than the greatest common factor. With the greatest common factor, we have 2 numbers and we break that number down. With least common multiple, we are skip counting, so the numbers are actually getting bigger, and we're skip counting to look for a number that they both have in common that's usually greater than both of the numbers. Let's take a look at number 1. You can use the LCM of 2 whole numbers to solve problems. Number 1, a store is having a promotion. Every 3rd customer receives a free keychain. Wow. And every 4th customer receives a free magnet. Which customer will be the first to receive both a keychain and a magnet? So basically here, this is a word problem in disguise. It's asking you, basically, what's the least common multiple? So let's continue and follow the directions and see what it says. Letter A says list the multiples of 3. So when it says list the multiples of 3, what we're going to be doing is skip counting by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. I would start off with going maybe about 5 numbers or so to see if there's anything in common. I'm going to show you a little trick for the next one though. Okay, list the multiples of 4. That would be 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Now what I do is I look in both of the numbers because letter B is saying the LCM is the first number they both have in common. Therefore, the LCM, or the least common multiple, the smallest number that both of them have in common is, well, if I go back and I look and I say to myself, okay, is 3 in both of these numbers? No. Is 6 in both of these numbers? No. Is 9? Nope, but 12 is. So my least common multiple would be 12. And that's all you have to do. And the reason why we're looking for the least common multiple is because we are going to be looking to find the least common multiple of two numbers when we're looking to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. So that's the reason why we're doing this. Okay, let's take a look at number 2. Number 2 says find the LCM of 4 and 9 by listing the multiples. So what you're going to do is you're going to list the multiples of 4 and then you're going to list the multiples of 9. But I'm going to tell you a little secret or a little trick. Ready? What I would do first is list the multiples of the larger number because it's a little less work. So watch, I'm going to list the multiples of 9. And as I'm doing that, I'm looking at the other number thinking, does that number go into the larger number? First of all, does 4 go into 9? Nope. So we're going to list that here. Then I'm going to go, the next multiple is 18. Does 4 go into 18? Nope, it does not. The next multiple is going to be 27. Does 4 go into 27? Nope, it does not. Does 4 go into the next one? Well, what's the next multiple after 27? That would be 36. And lo and behold, I noticed that 4 can go into 36. So what I'm going to do now is I know it's going to be 36. I'm going to actually list the multiples now of the smaller number, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. And this will also help you with your multiplication tables. If you have a hard time listing multiples, use a multiplication chart. By the way, in the back of this workbook is there's a couple of multiplication charts that you can use. So the LCM of 4 and 9 is 36. And guess what? You're done. Let's take a look at number 3. Find the LCM of 12 and 30. I'll do this one with you. So here, for 12 and 30, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and try it on your own. Start with finding the LCM, start with the multiples of 30 first, and you're going to see something pretty interesting. Pause the video, and here you go. I hope you came up with 60. So the least common multiple of 12 and 30 is 60. And let's take a look. When I'm looking for multiples of 30, so watch, I go with the bigger number here. Multiples of 30 would be 30, then 60. As I'm doing that, I look and I say to myself, hey, does the other number, the 12, go into the numbers that I'm listing for the larger number? So in other words, does 12 go into 30? Nope. Does 12 go into 60? Yes, it does. That's how I can shorten my list. Otherwise, I can be here and make lists of numbers all over the page. So start with the larger number. So I go 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. I know that 12 times 5 is 12 times 5 is 60. So that 60 is the least common multiple of both of those numbers. Let's take a look at number 4. Number 4 says, what is a good strategy to use when finding the LCM of a large number and a small number? Pause the video. We talked about it in the previous problems and I just stated it. Pause the video, see if you can write that in words. Okay, so if you look at the answer to number 4, the good strategy is to list the multiples of the larger number first. This saves times and it helps you to be a bit more accurate. Number 5, given any two numbers, this is a good one. Given any two numbers, which is greater? The LCM of the numbers or the GCF of the numbers? Provide an example and explain why. This would be an awesome, awesome test question. All right, I'm actually going to give you a clue. Let's use the numbers 12 and 24. Okay, so we're going to use the numbers, provide an example. So my example, we're going to say use the numbers 12 and 24. So they're asking you which is going to be greater or larger. Is the LCM of the number going to be greater, or is the GCF of those numbers going to be greater? So what I'm going to ask you to do is pause the video. I would definitely say make a T-chart for both of these, and then get your list ready for 12 and 24 and think about it. Which would be greater, and then be able to explain why. Pause the video now. So we see, based on the work that's given here, provided, the GCF of 12 and 24 is 12. With the LCM, when we make our list, the LCM of 12 and 24 is 24. So we can see that the LCM is going to be greater than the GCF based on the same two numbers. Now, again, what are we using the LCM for? We're using the least common multiple to find the least common denominator when we are working with fractions. Therefore, the LCM will be the larger number. So the LCM will be larger. And you can test it, test other numbers with, will be larger. You can test other numbers to prove that. Okay, let's take a look and see what work we have to do for today. Your homework for today is going to be to find the LCM of each set of numbers for the odds only. Just the odd numbers. Do the work nice and neat here in your workbook. Use the notes that you just took to help you out. And this is Mrs. Spatola saying have a great day, and most of all, be kind.